So there's no other way of starting this video than to say that Stone Cold Steve Austin needs to start having his bedtime stories read to him by Becky Lynch. Honestly, Stone Cold just sat into this latest edition of the Broken Skull sessions, and he was all snuggled up, and he listened to every tale that Becky Lynch recounted to him, and it was just lovely to see. And in all honesty, that's not a surprise when the man comes round, because when she speaks, you listen. And the beer-drinking host and coffee-sipping Raw Women's Champion sat down, they talked all things John Cena, Tough Enough, you name it, they covered it, and that's my job right now. I'm going to let you know about all the things that you may have missed in this video. Now, as you can probably tell, I am not Adam Nicholas, I'm afraid. I am Gareth from What Culture Wrestling, and these are the 10 things you may have missed in Becky Lynch's edition of the Broken Skull sessions. Yeah. Number 10, the influence Tough Enough had on her. So pretty much all these videos that you see from the Broken Skull sessions start chronologically, they work all the way through a wrestler's career, and it was the same again here. And the early parts of this video were just dedicated to talking about how Becky got into wrestling in the first place and what her main inspiration was, and as it turns out, it was actually Tough Enough. How weird's that? Becky revealed in the video that she was inspired by the never say die, can't quit attitude that was seen in the show by all the participants, and pretty much the people who were making them jump through loads of hoops and do loads of crazy stuff in that show. She also did reveal that when she did PE at school, she wasn't very good, she couldn't even put one foot in front of the other, she failed PE, and she also found it quite rough when she was training with Finn Balor at the early stages of her career. But what got her through all this time is just repeating little words of inspiration and motivation that she'd heard on the show, and that's such a weird way of taking in Tough Enough, isn't it? Because of course she was never an actual contestant on the show, but she watched it, she saw what people had to do, she saw how they drove through all of their fears and things that they couldn't do, and thought, you know what, I'm going to take that, I'm going to apply it to PE. Yeah, go Bex. Number 9, one chant led to her lengthy layoff. So by 2006, Becky Lynch thought that she had a pretty good grasp on what she thought fans wanted to see when it came to her presentation and just women's wrestling in general. She'd obviously been to Japan, but she was a little bit more focused on just doing spots than anything else at this point. And in the end, that'd pretty much lead to her having like a 6 to 7 year layoff in the end, thanks to one match where things just didn't go very well. Bex told Austin that she planned out a match that was just too complicated for the person that she was working with, and the end results were pretty disastrous. It absolutely bombed, and the crowd just rinsed the match. They did not like it one bit and started chanting out women's wrestling in a really derogatory way, and this really disheartened Bex. And this overall humiliation felt from just not really having her eye on the match because of the chants that were going on and everything else, led to her botching a suplex spot and injuring herself, so it just was not good stuff. And just the match and the chant, everything about that really rocked her to the point of just saying, no, yeah, I'm gonna leave this for a few years, it's just not for me, I don't want to do this anymore. Number 8, how Paige freaked her out. But then she did finally return to the world of wrestling and everything was better for it. But Becky Lynch, like all of us, has that one friend who just seems to really promote us and put us so high up on a pedestal that it's quite hard at times to live up to that. And said friend was Paige on this occasion, because in this moment, she told pretty much everyone who would listen that she's amazing, Becky Lynch is the best wrestler you've ever seen in your life, you will not believe what this woman can do in the ring. And of course, Lynch had been away for a couple of years, so she didn't know if she could still go to the way that Paige had seen her go in the past, so this just filled her with dread and fear and anxiety, which is pretty damn understandable. And Bex, just being the cool person she is, she thanked Paige, she said, oh, it's great, I'm glad that you said all these lovely things to people, but then she just went about kind of just dousing the fire a little bit, being like, guys, yeah, I might be good again at some point, but right now, just give me a minute, just get myself back up to speed. And on top of this, Lynch just didn't want to appear like she had this massive ego en route to coming back into the company. She didn't want people to be looking at her going, oh, she thinks she's great, she thinks she's God's gift, when in reality, she was just thinking, just get me through this match, I want to do my stuff again. Number 7, the diva pressure that doesn't exist now. And then something a bit weird happened, because WWE told Becky that she needed to buy some nice dresses. You can see where this is going. And Bex just didn't know what the hell to buy, because up to this point, she'd just let her wrestling do the talking. She'd not really been focused on dressing up sexy and just giving off this really kind of beauty-filled aesthetic. The words are there, you get what I mean. And even though she didn't think being a WWE Diva was necessarily going to be her thing, she went out, she got the dresses, and she just did what she was asked to do. And now look, there's still obviously some weird pressure out there for the women of wrestling to look as glamorous and beautiful as possible at all times, whenever. But we're nowhere near the point that we were back in 2013, 2014, when the diva sexy stuff was just pushed at you left, right, and center, and it was all a bit icky. And something else pretty weird that came out of this was the fact that Becky told Austin that women at this point still couldn't throw punches in matches, so they were still doing all the horrible slap cat fighting stuff apparently, and that's, again, very icky. It makes you feel a bit dirty at this point. Number 6, what John Cena told her in 2016. I don't know who you are, who are you? Those are the words that John Cena said to Becky Lynch, apparently, around the time when she was SmackDown Women's Champion. Coming into Survivor Series, I believe Charlotte Flair was the captain on Team Raw, and Nikki Bella was chosen to be the captain on Team SmackDown, even though Lynch was the champion, and she was just a bit like, well, why don't you trust me? I'm the champ. I'm the last kicker. And because Lynch often went to Cena for advice and asked her what she could improve on, everything else, when she came to him with this kind of notion of why did they not choose me, he said, well, who are you? Who's the last kicker? What is all this steampunk stuff, all this aesthetic that you're pushing on people? And everyone's chanting your name, but they don't know why they're chanting your name. And it really made her think, well, yeah, who the hell am I? This also harkens back to a thing that Cena said to Apollo, I believe, maybe around this time, and he said the same thing. He was like, who are you, man? Figure out who you are. And eventually, Becky Lynch did do exactly that when she got the man persona. She showed it to Cena. She went, what do you think? And he went, yes, lady, you found it. That's you. Go kick some ass. Number 5, Tyson Kidd's sage advice. And John Cena wasn't the only person with a bit of advice for Becky Lynch, because Tyson Kidd, the maestro, the puppet master behind pretty much all of women's wrestling in WWE at this point, he's the guy they always go to for advice and for building matches left, right and centre. He had this advice to say. So when Becky asked TJ how she could better herself in the world of WWE, he had one thing to say, and it was, yeah, listen to Triple H's theme song. So yeah, that is a bit of a weird little nugget of advice, but when you think about it, it's actually quite cool. Because when you sit back and analyse those lyrics, it's all about the game and how you play it. That's pretty much WWE, isn't it? It's all about this big world that you've got in front of you, and it's how you navigate it. It's how you make it work for you. Play the game. Now, it's probably a good thing you didn't say listen to Vince McMahon's music, because then she'd have no chance in hell. I'm silly. Number 4, she didn't feel freedom as the man. Yeah, so this next bit might come as a bit of a shocker, to be honest. Because despite the fact that she'd probably found herself in this moment more than she did during the whole last kicker phase, she didn't really know how to properly present herself, how to feel out this character at this point when she was at the height of the man character gimmick thing. And a lot of this was down to the fact that she didn't really have any vulnerability as the character. She was just this all-round ass kicker, very Stone Cold Steve Austin-esque, very apt. And despite all the praise she was getting, she just wasn't feeling it. Whereas the build towards her explosive SummerSlam turn against Charlotte Flair, that felt a lot more natural, because yeah, she felt downtrodden, she felt overlooked, and then getting into that character and tapping into it just felt a lot more organic for her as a person. And while things did settle down a bit by the time she got to WrestleMania and she's fighting against Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair, she still has this deep underlying discomfort that something's just not right, it's just not quite clicking, which, to be honest, when you watch her doing the whole man stuff and just being an all-around badass, it's crazy to believe that's how she's thinking, because she's great. Number 3, they ignored Mania's botched finish. Bit weird this, because this is probably one of the massive, huge highlight moments of Becky Lynch's career just in general, and it was very much infamously botched on the night itself. A lot of the What Culture lads were obviously there. They didn't really see it properly because they were quite far away, but if you're watching on TV, you saw that Becky Lynch rolled up Ronda Rousey and her shoulders weren't quite on the mat, and the referee still counted 3, and he apparently got disciplined after. It was all a thing, but in this video, it really wasn't a thing. It was a bit odd. Maybe this weird no-selling of the fact that the finish was botched was a Vince McMahon thing. He just said, no, I don't want to put any spotlight on that. Maybe if we are going to have a Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey match at Mania this year, they could put a bit more on it there, and Ronda could be like, you didn't actually pin me. Becky could be like, yeah, I did. And they could just fight. But yeah, just in general, it felt a bit weird that they glossed over this and didn't even really give it any attention at all. Very odd. Number 2, Becky predicted the belt swap drama. And speaking of messy developments, so when it went back to that October 22nd episode of SmackDown last year, something very different was supposed to happen than the weird belt controversial throwing away, just being not very helpful and compliant thing that happened between Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. According to Lynch, this belt swap moment was supposed to make them both look cool. Becky was going to hold both the titles aloft and be Becky 2 belts once again for 1 minute, and then Flair was going to challenge her to a fight, and they would have probably scrapped and whatever, and it would have been fine. But of course, that's not what happened. Charlotte ad-libbed, she threw the belt, then Becky threw the belt, and there was lots of belt throwing, then they got backstage, they were squabbling, egos were colliding, and it led to a really, really good match at Survivor Series between the two, so I don't know, there was a bit of a silver lining there in the end. Being ever humble in this moment, Becky did admit that yeah, she might have lost her head a little bit, but it was just the way it was. Emotions were high, they were backstage, they squabbled a little bit, and then they had a great match. So everyone wins. Number 1, why she's enjoying WWE more than ever. Austin kicked off this entire interview pretty much by saying, do you enjoy what you're doing right now? Is this the most fun you've ever had? What's Becky Lynch? What's going on in her mind? And she went, yeah, you know what? I really am. And the reason why I'm having so much fun is because I'm a genuine heel. And that was something she was supposed to be way back in 2018 when she first became this man character. But obviously people were just so geared up to cheer her on and watch her conquer the world that nobody wanted to boo the man heel character. So we got a weird heel face, grey area badass. But now things have changed. Becky's been able to go full heightened, glamorous, crazy, just dialed up big time Bex. She's having the time of her life. She's got all of the big fur coats, big sunglasses. Her and Seth Rollins are the real it couple. I'm sorry, Miz and Maurice, get out of the way. These two, they got it. And Lynch knew that if she was going to get to this point of being genuinely hated by all the fans, she had to beat Bianca Belair very quickly at SummerSlam, deflate the world. But even that was a bit weird because people were like, yeah, we love Becky, she's back, but she just beat someone else that we really love really quickly. Conflicting feelings. But Bex is loving just completely changing up her wardrobe, being so heightened and crazy and obnoxious, and she's having a whale of a time and being really good at it because Becky Lynch is amazing at everything. And are we going to see her fight Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania? That is the question. This is being recorded before the Royal Rumble tonight, so a lot could change, obviously, because that's what happens in WWE. They change everything by the time I finish recording. But that is all the things that you may have missed and things you need to know from Becky Lynch's appearance on the Broken Skull sessions, obviously on WWE Network or Peacock or Disney, apparently, depending on where you are in the world. I have been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Follow myself on Twitter at gmorgan04. Don't forget to follow everyone here at What Culture at What Culture WWE. Follow everything that is What Culture. Like this video, subscribe to What Culture. Just comment and say that you hate me, because that's fine, and I'll give you a big cuddle virtually. But more importantly than all this, enjoy Royal Rumble tonight, enjoy WrestleMania season, enjoy the Saudi show thing that's coming, but on top of all this, enjoy wherever the hell you are in the world. But on top of all this, just enjoy your day, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye-bye!
Hey you! Yes, you, the wrestling fan! Have you got the January blues? Do other wrestling fans mock you and kick you in the balls for not knowing stuff about AEW, WWE, NXT delete as appropriate? Well, never fear, because What Culture Man is here. I said, What Culture Man is here. And he's here to tell you that if you head to shop.whatculture.com now, you can get your hands on all these great wrestling books, plus magazines, t-shirts and board games. Becoming All Elite by Michael Sidgwick, Development Hell by Michael Sidgwick, Shocking Wrestling Plans You Won't Believe Almost Happened, Shocking Wrestling Plans You Won't Believe Actually Happened, and 606 Wrestling Matches to See Before You Die. Thanks, What Culture Man! What Culture Man is a What Culture creation. DC Comics, please don't sue.